Hey everyone, welcome to issue 3 of Koi Talk with Ricky and Chris. Great to have you back.
Back again.
As always, we're going to give a little plug to the magazine. We found out last video, that probably not as many people as we had thought were aware of the magazine, and the orders were just sensational, and the feedback that we've had thus far since we did the last video was great. So thank you very much to everyone that was supporting us, and I think the last issue that we did is probably amongst our best one yet. So it's a big thanks to everyone that placed an order, and if you haven't and you like the videos, please support the magazine. So that's that one done. So Rick, we touched on a bit of a debate last video. It seems to be rumbling on a little bit, mate.
Yeah, golden corn fever. Love it.
Yeah. And obviously, we sort of touched on that already, but what we probably haven't touched upon is the different processes and the difficulty and the value attributed to different spawnings, different breedings from different breeders.
Yeah.
I think the GoSanke market is, there's a lot of choice out there for a start. Obviously, I'm not saying you can pick the best fish from every breeder, but you can get a good, if you want a Kahaku, you've got a degree of choice in terms of how many breeders you go for. Showa the same, Sankey,
I agree with that.
When it comes down to these oddball varieties, let's just use that as a phrase, because it seems to be one that's...
Anything non-GoSanke, really, I think you're saying,
Why, in your opinion, why should they be held in not higher regard? Because I think a few people missed the point a little bit that you were trying to make last video. We're not discounting GoSanke, like you said before. It's mostly what you purchase in Japan for your own collection.
Yeah. And setting golden corn aside, you're going to love it. Or there's loads of varieties out there that love it. Shisui is one that pops straight to mind. You'll find as many people who hate a Shisui as ones that love them.
Yeah.
So, no, I think the real sort of bit you're possibly getting at is the value that's attributed to the higher end sort of non-GoSanke stuff, and where that's sort of gone in market. Am I right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, if we strip it right back to even conceiving the ideas of producing sort of Deutsch metallic fish.
Yeah.
Again, we call them oddballs. I think it's just an easier way for everyone out there to understand what we're talking about. The varieties that are not so common.
Yeah.
If someone were in the market for, I don't know, pluck a variety out, Deutsche Chiba.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. So obviously, in terms of, yes, you could probably argue that GoSanke wise, and it's all subjective. It's down to the individual fish.
Yeah.
You might be able to generate a bigger, so-called better fish by going down the GoSanke route. But obviously, if you're in the market for something a little bit different, then that market, that availability is smaller and smaller because of that pool of availability.
Yeah.
So if you're a breeder and you're looking at producing some of these varieties that are not so common, obviously we're aware of the difficulty of producing good koi, full stop.
People possibly aren't,
maybe that's something we're taking for granted.
It leads into, but I think obviously what's happened is we've had a massive, if we take probably the past, I'm going to say 5 years, the scale's really tipped on the whole. And again, you've got different areas of the market. It's all relative to where you're sat. The top end of the hobby is still very much dominated by GoSanke on the show scene. However, obviously a lot of top end hobbyists, and I see it more probably out in Asia and places like that, are building that collection with, all the varieties, the amount of goshki we're seeing going for stupid sums of money and everything like that. Because if you're the top end and you're competing at koi shows, you want to win awards. In the All Japan show, you've not just got awards for GoSankes. You've got all the Miyabis, Sabaki prizes, all that's there for for other fish to be winning top honours. Even obviously now the male division,
Yeah.
you know, it's just getting as competitive as everything else. So yeah, there's a lot of chance to win awards, but I'm gonna, you know, my comments here are based on, we're gonna call it the mass market. You know, everything else outside that sort of top tier bracket, and that has been dominated by non-GoSanke. The demand for it, for Muji varieties, all your Kawari mono, all your metallic, everything like that. Goshki is just been soaring. You mentioned Deutsche Chiba. I mean, wind back 2 or 3 years, you just could literally not get enough of them. You'll know we run you out at shop and demand. So yeah, that demand peaks, but obviously when you hit demand for something like that, these things, you know, good koi in general are not easy to breed, the highest level stuff. But when you narrow it down to these non-GoSanke varieties, you know, the numbers, when you sort of exclude Muji varieties, obviously a spawning a sort of chagoi or something like that can throw a lot of fish off. When you move into like Kikisui, Deutsche Matanishiki, Beniki Kukuru, my God, the numbers just fall off the edge of the earth. And I mean, Deutsche Chiba, Deutsche GoSanke even in general, you know, good Deutsche shower are always popular. Finding good Deutsche shower, not easy, really not easy. So yeah, it's an interesting one, because obviously then when we do move into the realms of finding the good ones, they do come with a price tag, and rightly so, to be honest with you. I mean, GoSanke, the thoughts around GoSanke is obviously they dominate. They're the most expensive, probably because they're the ones most likely to win the top awards at a koi show.
Yeah.
But when I actually look at the Japan breeding scene in general, GoSanke in Japan is easy for them to breed on all levels. You know, you take a farm like Dainichi, and even if you look at the top three, Dainichi, Sakai, Momotaro, why have they decided, if GoSanke was exactly what it was all about right now, why have they decided to start breeding Kawari mono and mucking around with single coloured Muji fish like a Momotaro with the Yamabuki project? Dainichi started with the Botan line. Sakai's done the mango Karashigoi and all that stuff, Silver Fox, Makashis. Why have they decided to do it if there was no market and GoSanke was everything? The interesting bit with that is obviously they have done it because there is massive demand there for it. And when a farm does like something like that, they take a completely different approach to it. I tend to find what's actually happened with them 3 farms. I think the focus has more been on trying to produce really big fish. Has been the big key, and I'm not talking a metre, because all these farms can produce GoSanke at a metre. I'm talking hitting bigger numbers than that, scary numbers. And obviously you've had Kanishi doing it with Karashigoi for quite a while, you know. These guys obviously wanted their turn, A, because the demand's there, and B, they like a challenge. And let's face it, the likes of them 3 farms, they can breed top GoSanke in their sleep, you know. And because of the scale they're operating at, even then, the very top level stuff, there's more and more of it available every year, because their process, the technique, the skill, it's back from generations. And honestly, I'm not saying it is actually easy, it's just easy for them because of the resources and just everything. It really is, the whole thing is so finely tuned. They can chuck it out in really mass numbers, and you sort of see the lowest level of fish that comes out at them farms, and what they produce it's phenomenal. And then you add in all the other breeders, you know. It just seems that everybody produces a bit of GoSanke, but not everybody's producing Deutsche Chiba or Kisui or anything like that. And yeah, why are they doing it? A, there's demand, and like in the case of I know Dainichi was the one actually. I remember talking to Shigeru about the Botan line he created, and then, like, it was that first or second year after they'd done it. It's like, what? Why? Really looking at them. And the interesting thing there is, you know, you talk about obviously people and their skills. GoSanke at Dainichi, they're doing it in their sleep quite often. He actually had to go and get advice from another breeder, that other breeder being Maruhiro, the king of craziness and producing all the weird and wonderful, about what parent sets to throw together to help start creating the vision they had for the Botan line. I mean, it goes to say something really, doesn't it? So, they started off and I was just like, well, what's the point of it? And he's sort of chugging away as he does, walking along, and he says, well, GoSanke 95 a metre, that's easy these days. That was literally as blasé as that, that's easy. But, producing some at 1 metre 3, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, what an insight. So you've got to remember, at the heart of all these farms, even at Dainichi's level, it's a passion.
Yeah, they're not resting on their laurels, are they?
Yeah, and it's like these knocking this GoSanke out year after year after year. Yeah, they refine it, they do it. Obviously, we look at what Momotaro did with the Mako Showa line.
Yeah.
In trying to create that size that Showa typically didn't have, and then you've got obviously Dainichi introducing that into the Super Monster, the Monster line. So, but other than that, pretty simple process for it more really.
Yeah.
Especially when they real buckle down on it. Sakai in recent years, obviously I don't have too much to do with Sakai, but I know that they're really focusing heavy on Showa at the minute. I'd been at a couple of Dainichi auctions probably about 4 or 5 years ago, where Kentaro's been down there buying a lot of male fish, and they're getting some stick for it as well. So he has been. I think he always sort of commented that Showa just bred it to sort of have all 3 GoSanke.
Yeah.
But now he's taking it seriously, and then you'll just see it.
It'll be
elevate
one to watch.
That's all it is. He's applying focus to it, and it'll take off because it's no real pressure for him. No doubt if we asked him to go and create a new lineage of Shisui, it might confuse him a little bit more.
So do you think some of these varieties are just a bit misunderstood, or they're palmed off as being, from the purists, no, I'm not into that? Do you think there's a lack of understanding as to the difficulty?
Not the different. I think the issue is in appreciating them is you probably don't get to see. Me and you have been lucky that we get to see the very best examples of these varieties swimming around in ponds. When you don't get to see that, and you're just seeing the lower end or sort of medium sort of class examples, they're not as inspiring. So it doesn't create the desire to think, I want to play around with some Tosai and hopefully end up with one of them one day. It's just like, no, they don't really do a lot for me. I think that's tied up in it a lot for sure. But yeah, they do come in for some stick at times. But honestly, the market, the mass market, is dominated by this stuff at the minute. You know it full well. Yeah.
But
it's people want the hobby to be interesting and on levels and staying. And a lot of these varieties do, through the unpredictable nature of them, do create that sort of excitement for the people.
That jackpot moment, isn't it?
Yeah. You just never really know truly what's coming with them.
Yeah.
Because even for me, when I look at GoSanke, playing GoSanke is one of the easier fish to actually read. When I'm looking and I'm selecting, I've got so many elements to them that I can use. Even if you just compare Kohaku with Deutsch Kohaku, for example, I've got the sachet to look at. Mainly great indicator. I've got the pigmentation in the scales and where all that's sat with the Kohaku to know if the Benny is going to be stable as the fish grows. Deutsch Kohaku, literally the only way I can describe is just learning from experience. Colour consistency is the biggest tool you've got, but it's literally it's now sort of developing a knack to sort of know, that's probably going to lose it, that's not. But even then, they're such a gamble.
Yeah, they're a little bit more fickle, aren't they, in terms when you're trying to push them.
And I think there's nowhere to hide with them, People, it's debating about the price of some of this non-GoSanke stuff and where it's got to. If you have to look at the process involved in producing it, and when I'm talking more about the higher end stuff here, so producing them. Karashigoi is probably the best example I can think of. Now, how finely tuned my eye is with scale lines and stuff like this with these, to the point where it's
annoying.
Stupid obsession. But Karashigoi, so you think, yes, no doubt, a spawning of Karashigoi from a big female is probably going to chuck a lot of yellowfish out. You've got Karashigoi. Then you want to start refining. So what do a lot of people want with Karashigoi? Well, size. So there's all different lineages of these going on. Yamazaki's produced stunning Karashi for years. Deutsch ones in particular, stunning scale lines, nice colour, they never grew properly. So then you've got to start mixing it up in order to start producing the size. And then when you start adding that element in, i.e. Marido's done that for years, had big Karashigoi, but the colour's not as desirable as those fish you get from Yamazaki. So how's he going to do that? He's possibly going to have to introduce something to that lineage that might compromise the size. All the time they're doing this, they only get one shot every year. They're investing time, resources, pond space for the stuff that they know guaranteed money every year, hoping that it pays off.
Yeah, risk
in
versus
the long
reward.
run.
Yeah.
So again, you come back to Karashigoi. I mean, the Akawa Karashigoi is the one for me at the minute. I've just had some of the Tosai in, been following what he's done for a while now, and absolutely phenomenal. These things, he's using Kanishi parents and Sakai parents, which is the best two Karashi lineages out there right now, and he's thrown them together. I mean, it can't get more exciting. And you've seen them. I've had a couple growing on here, which we'll probably try and get a bit of footage of. They're just stunning. The coloration, the body, the size they're getting. I mean, twice now he's offered me his best in his size, and they've been 70 centimetre at sort of 18, 19 months old.
Yeah, that's mad.
Frightening fish. Both of those times them fish were offered, I rejected them. Why did I reject them? The bit I picked up on that's that missed by a lot, the scale lines. So if you're talking absolute perfect Karashigoi right now, as in perfect Kohaku, or Kohaku with no faults, let's reword it. So, because perfect's a duff word really. So with no faults, great body line, and then no faults anywhere else that are sort of like put you off from saying no or not deeming it at the level it should be. How many Kohaku have you seen when you've been with me at, say, Hoshikin, Dainichi, NND, Nogami, that you would say are free from faults? Despite preference, they've got good skin, good body, no major faults.
Very few.
I'd have said you've seen plenty.
What, without faults?
Without major sort of faults and problems in them.
Well, I think if you're being sort of objective about it, the like you said, there's not the perfect fish.
Yeah, to take that out of the equation, there's a lot of these things kicking around at these farms, in my opinion, that are just like, yep, that's great, I'd buy that. And I'm talking faults like a shimmy come up or a bit of secondary colour and stuff like that would put you off from buying it completely. Yeah. Karashigoi, I mean, wow. Obviously you start then, body problems, all that, getting it away. But it's the thing a lot don't consider, scale alignment. This is like a major problem with these. And the more, when you actually tune into it, the more and more fish you start seeing in general with it as a problem. So what I'm talking here for you guys is obviously the scales, especially when they get bigger and fukurin starts developing, this becomes really
more
prominent.
Noticeable, yeah.
You've got lines and lines of scales running, and they run in line and in order. So what's tending to happen is with a scale alignment problem, you'll get one scale that pops a bit bigger. And then what that causes is maybe a couple of the scales around it to shrink, or one scale overlaps the space of two scales, and all of a sudden
throws it off.
That's a major fault, in my opinion. That's as good as a Kohaku having a blistering piece of secondary heat there. It just ruins the whole visual impact of it.
But when you tune into it, it almost warps the shape of the fish as well.
Yeah, completely.
When you get an illusion, like a trick of the mind sort of thing.
Yeah.
And you sort of, when you do key into it, it's really frustrating.
Yeah. So when you consider...
But the breeders will be, obviously...
Nightmare for them. Yeah. And they will be into it, yeah. So when you consider what is like, you've got your checklist for what's a top level Kohaku. And for me, you're finding a lot of them fish available. And breeders are producing them in quite good numbers, in my opinion. When it comes to Karashigoi, you're wanting the shape, the nice colour, which is not naturally easy to achieve. And then you want nice fukurin as it gets bigger. And then you want perfect scale alignment, because that's obviously, it can really ruin them when they haven't. That is not an easy fish to find. Not all. So when the breeder does produce that one, hats off to him. You could charge the price.
Yeah, go charge accordingly.
Because so many gone before it that they're just, who wants a Karashigoi that's got, and obviously you consider the red little shimmies that come up as well,
yeah.
you know, eradicating them. To get that strong yellow colour, you've got to put something in that's got a stronger base, you know, so as that's coming through, that's when you get the potential to start pushing them red shimmies and stuff like that through, which, so no one wants them when they've got red shimmies, got poor scale alignment, they're done, and this is just wiping massive numbers out. The other bit of problem I see here is when you look at cost, with young GoSanke, as I've already said, it's easier to read what's going on. So it's much easier to reject fish that you know are going to go downhill at Tosai. Even when they're sort of 15 centimetre long, much easier to reject them. Do you think you can see the scale alignment problem on a Karashigoi when they're 15 centimetre long? Believe me, as much as I've tried,
it's difficult.
You can't see it. So what you've got to do already is invest more time and resources into them fish to get them to a certain size. Even as a jumbo Tosai, not that easy, because you're getting so much sort of scale movement as they progress to Nisai. So how much have you got to keep and hang on to in the hope that you produce a handful of Nisai that can be of value? It's like when you actually consider it that way, it's a game changer. Because the success rate at a top breeder on them, you know, Tosai GoSanke that's been kept, I guarantee you'll be much higher than the breeders doing Karashigoi. And then even when you move on to, you sort of move into realms of metallic world, I mean, you know, it's getting even more insane at that point.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, to bring something to the table, remove the scales, bring the metallic shine to the fish, bringing all this into a fish takes away something at some stage.
Exactly.
And refining that process is where the skill and the value is built in, really. But probably hard for a hobbyist to look at a fish and process all those thoughts.
Nobody has any exposure to it.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing.
That's a lot. Some people don't want to, and that's fair
fine.
Play.
Yeah.
They're just in the market. They're buying, and they want what they want.
They buy what they like.
But then please understand why what you want is carrying the price tag that it's carrying, because this stuff is not easy.
No.
And like I say, all the time they're giving resources up when, you know, as a business, you've got something that's working, you keep doing it, great. And then all of a sudden you decide to take some of your resources away to invest in something new. It's like, you know, companies for product development.
Yeah.
You have to put a lot of money into it with potentially no return from it. And I've seen it. I've actually been one summer when I worked out in Japan doing the selections. I was with Yugenji, and they'd invested in a showa set. And this was the second round of culling. So they'd done Kuroku culling, got all the back ones done. This was the next step. And we got everything set up, and within about an hour, they just rejected everything. Whole lot. And that's how, obviously, very quickly they could pick up on the success of the sport.
Yeah, sure.
Whole lot just gone. So that's it.
Back to the drawing board.
No more time on it. And give the pond up. That was it. Great, you know. Yeah, they've invested in parent fish, but it was early enough that they could even reuse the mud pond for something else at that point. If they'd have been breeding Karashigoi, other than, you know, 90% of spawning being bent, crippled or deformed, something like that, they wouldn't have had that option. They had to keep going to see what came out of it. So yeah, I think big respect really to these guys, and just understand that, you know, that stuff, we've got that Kajaku glaring at us there that Omasako's produced. They are just so few and far between. Yeah. And then ultimately as well, when they produce, that fish books the trend, because that actually won a major honour. It knocked GoSanke off its spot in Japan, which was amazing to see. But to then produce something, you know, typically before that, someone's produced the best, I don't know, Shisui ever, for example. They seem to keep cropping up a bit, don't they? But, you know, an absolute perfect example of whatever they've done, to then know it can't really compete and get the honours and recognition of someone producing GoSanke, that could be quite demoralising for the person producing it. You know, take Chogoro, for example. You know, for years and years, Parachina. I mean, just imagine the job, Parachina. The culling and selection on that, just one single colour when it's this big. I've done culling with Harawaki, again, when I've been in Japan. That drove me insane. I literally, 2 days apart, I did Sankey one day, just like a duck to water with Sankey, easy. Got to Harawaki, it made my head hurt, honestly. because they were no more than about yay big, so probably 3 centimeters, something like that at most, maybe 2. And the yellow colour's barely coming through.
Yeah.
And I'm asking to try and find a pattern and also make sure there's a bit of good shine as well. And there was fucking thousands of the things. It was a full day, and I just remember thinking, nope, that would not be for me, that. And knowing as well the reward that would come out of that spawning in the end of that Harawaki for them, very, very minimal.
Yeah.
Put it this way, I can't remember seeing any fish beyond 2 years old at that farm.
Yeah, sure.
From them, so bit of a waste of time, really, if you look at it that way.
Yeah, obviously deformity rate as well.
Yeah, it seems to be a big thing with Metallic World, doesn't it? I mean, again, you just think you get the shining stuff, all of a sudden you start producing nice fish, good numbers, but then, yeah, you're seeing that heads off and then body deformities. It's hats off to them for sticking with it, to be honest.
So in a nutshell, sort of in summary, those seemingly few fish that do make the grade, these oddballs, don't get me wrong, I'm sure quite a few of them go through the roof for a reason, because you cannot replace that fish. Not like, next year there'll be probably another Kahaku at the All Japan that will be there or thereabouts.
Well, let's face it.
But if you were breeding Komomryu,
there.
Next year you might have one year, but it might be another 5-10 years until you find another one.
Absolutely, at that level.
And obviously,
and then it can't, because of the world and the nature of how it is. It just cannot command the same as a sort of equal level GoSanke fish, if you get me. And that's tough.
The degree of irony, really, isn't there, that this is a one-off.
Yeah.
But that's the world that we live in, sort of thing.
Yeah. And that's still, I see it a lot, to be honest. I've heard it a lot in the past over here. If you've got a budget of, say, 1,500 quid, so when you've got a sizable budget to spend, people don't seem to want to spend it on anything non-GoSanke. When in reality, in the GoSanke world, that money doesn't go that far because of the price and demand. 1,500 quid, £2,000 can be putting you in at quite a high level. If you say buying Nisai, quite a high level for any of them other non-GoSanke varieties, whereas when you move into GoSanke, you're not even scratching surface with it. So fascinating world, but that's my take on that. Hats off to these guys, and to be fair, when the good ones come about, they absolutely warrant the price tag that they carry.
Yeah, I know I'm sat here, but I'd probably be inclined to agree with you there, mate, because having been fortunate enough to see some absolute worldies in my time.
Just popped into my head, actually, another great. I was a client I was with in Japan once, and again, he shops mainly for GoSanke, and we find fish that satisfy him every year. Point now, obviously, he tends to find he's getting to a point where he's got that much of it. Finding the ones that float his boat, he's having to really up the budget at certain breeders, or you get a bit of a different bloodline that's got something going on, or a pattern style he ain't get. It's getting a bit harder. Still plenty of choice there. Just finding something a bit more unique for him. But yeah, I remember the year he wanted a Kimatsuba. So as I do most things, right, you want a Kimatsuba, what do you want? He says, well, I don't know, something about 70, 80 cm. Yeah, fair play. Female. Yeah, fair play, Nice coloration. Yeah. Just good, clean, well-balanced reticulation down its back. Yeah, great. He says, that won't be too hard, will it? Right, yeah. I says, well, we'll no doubt find one. I know Marihiro's normally got quite a lot, but what's the budget? So I can't remember exactly what number he fired at me, and I said, I think you might find at that budget, this is going to be a massive struggle. So walked into Marihiro, the famous round pond up at tops where we started, and well, something like that one there. Popped it in bowl, and he pretty much fell down steps when he chucked a price at him. So, and I think in that whole pond, amongst them, there was probably 2 or 3 of that, and even of them 2 or 3, it was only the one fish that was being focused on that really, really ticked every one of them boxes. So then it was a case of had to move down, and there was a few more at the lower price level, but they had compromises to them.
That is sometimes the frustration, or often the frustration, isn't it? Is managing expectations. You know, obviously, every hobby is relative, whether you're into cars, whether you're into sound systems, whether you're into whatever you're into. Obviously, we all aspire, you know, that's why you get into a hobby sometimes, isn't it? Whether you're fishing, you want to catch that big fish. Whether you're into cars, one day you might do the track day. You know what I mean? Like you might drive in that nice supercar. But with fish, it is a bit unattainable for a lot of us to not achieve that holy grail. Yeah, it's not as if you can borrow, you know, a high quality fish for a weekend, and it's a part of frustration for a lot of hobbyists. But as we've seen, and you've proved time and time again, refine those skills. Stop wasting time. Back to. You know, on elements of the hobby that aren't going to bring anything to the table. Yeah. Refine those skills, take that time, invest that time, even if it be a year, 2 years. Yeah. To get to where you want, because I just see a lot of hobbyists becoming demotivated. And this leads me on to the next point, really.
Yeah, hard to see.
Is a lot of people going, oh, I'm fed up with the hobby, this, that, and the other. But if they actually sat down and thought about it, it's not a hobby, it's a lifestyle. You know, it is the amount of the modern day koi keeper wants to pick the nice fish, put an auto feeder on, and look at the fish in the evening. But there is more to it than that. And
hell of a lot on all different levels.
If that's your game, then I don't know whether keeping koi is for you or it's going to be short lived because it's a hands on hobby. Yeah, always has been, always will be. Dealing with livestock, I don't know any livestock that you don't need to pay care and attention to.
Yeah, I think a good point to you raise there is the people who are getting disheartened with the hobby needs to look at what's actually out there in the hobby. Because I come across more and more people that seem to think there's only about 6 varieties that do exist, seeing that we're on this topic. You know, when you're trapped in a bubble like that, it's possibly, you know, that's somebody else's thinking, probably, you know, stuff you're seeing online, or that you need to have this, you need to have this. If you want to be serious, you've only got to have GoSanke. It's just it's a load of shit to me, and it can get disheartening because then you're trapped in a world around mindsets and things like that it's just very sort of narrow-minded thinking, and you're living with your blinkers on, really. It's not an hobby to have blinkers on for, because you miss the best part of it. So much out there, so much enjoyment, and that's what I see a lot of these other varieties bringing, hence why they become so popular. The changing elements of variety, the not knowing what's coming. Yeah, I get it, in high-end stuff, you want predictability, you want some more stability. When you're spending that kind of money, I agree. It's my own criteria as well. I don't take, when I'm buying top-end pieces, I don't take chances. I don't take chances for clients either. But in the general day-to-day stuff, when I'm raising it, I've got so much different stuff. I mean, Dainichi auction just gone, I've managed to go completely mental buying a load of Benigoys, you know, which they get knocked left, right and centre. But we all know, we've seen the Ginrin, ex-Ginrin one that I've got sat down there. When you see one like that, they create an impression. And that's the vision in my head already. It just makes me smile thinking about it. Seeing that pond come this time next year when there's possibly 50 Benigoys swimming around, 45, 50 centimetres, and absolutely popping in colour with the impactful bodies, it's going to look the nuts. And it's going to make a lot of other people smile as well.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I mean, kind of, again, draws into the next point is the hobby are people overcomplicating keeping koi? Not everyone, because let's get it right. I mean, it's not for me, but for some people, the sheer biology and chemistry it brings more to the hobby for them than the koi do, oddly enough. Yeah. And that is actually part of it for them, and obviously that can't be ignored. But I saw a guy set up the other day, and it just, no wonder they're stressed. I mean, can you imagine if we had that here on every pond and everything had to be finitely
Oh yeah, you just couldn't.
It's not viable either.
No.
And the guy was saying, not sure if I'm going on holiday this year because I can't get my water right.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, no wonder the hobby's becoming frustrating for you.
I actually blame. Again, this ties in really to why we started the whole Koi Tour adventure, innit? Because you've spent a load of time in retail. I've spent a load of time in retail as well. And yeah, seeing what goes off, I blame a lot of people out there. Misinformation. This is at every level. You know, we're talking. There's a lot of dealers out there that's advice is only based around selling something. That doesn't help. You know, not all of them. Obviously, there's just some, but yeah, a lot of misinformation, and it just sets people up for disaster. Regarding the simplicity of it, yes, I do believe a lot of people are overcomplicating something that's really simple. You know, I was lucky that from a very young age, I've had the whole Japanese sort of surrounding and mindset and exposure to what they do, and I'm always fascinated by. I'll never forget the very first thing, you know, you're walking around Fish House when I'm first going and looking for water test kits, which are non-existent, by the way, in most cases, other than possibly a pH pen every now and again. But they learned to keep koi just through observation. Obviously, knowing what to do helps. That's stuff that's handed down over years, and learning from the mistakes, you know, is obviously a big one. But yeah, they learn to read the environment and talk about simplicity. I mean, it just doesn't get any simpler. You know, you're not seeing any mod cons. I mean, the UVs, everything like that. I mean, they're fascinated. I remember even just a few years ago, they finally brought like an inline UV model to market in Japan, and they're fascinated by it. You know, because till then they've just got a UV light hung on some string floating above settlement chamber. And you just look and think, and this is what always inspired me, you know, you're looking and thinking the stocking levels, then how they raise them, the level they raise them to, and yeah, the amount of fish they're keeping. You know, more often than not, one farm, I mean, Coda's a great example. I mean, Coda's an absolute machine when it comes to breeding. So many different varieties he's doing, thousands and thousands of fish, loads of mud ponds to look after, indoor facilities, and the farm is run by him. One person. And he doesn't look the most stressed person I've ever met, to be honest with you. So, I mean, yeah, he realises he's doing something he loves every day. It does make it a bit easier, but it's just really, really simple. And then I look at, how it's done elsewhere. You sort of move outside of Japan and it's got probably more, as stuff's got more and more commercialised, I suppose, in a lot of ways. It's because you get away from, obviously, everyone then it's always about what have you got, or someone trying to sell you something and all the rest of it. But I think not enough learning goes into learning the basic concepts, you know, the basic concept of filtration. So you're not relying on picking the next flashy thing that comes up. You understand the basics, and then you decide what's right for your pond and your environment based on that bit of knowledge. But then that comes back to the bigger problem: where's that knowledge found? Because the people really in the know who you would trust and have got credibility and are impartial are generally not accessible, and their knowledge isn't accessible as well. So hence, again, you know, initially wanting to kick the Koi Talk thing up, finding them people and bringing the information to knowledge, because me and you have got no ties to anything, have we? It's quite a privileged position to be in, really, where we can just talk openly and be honest about everything we've learnt so far.
I think obviously the term what is a successful koi keeper? Someone asked me that on Facebook a few weeks ago. It is what you want it to be, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
What, you know, there are no right and wrongs. Do you enjoy it? Does it enhance your life?
I think successful.
If the answer is a yes, and you're raising little fry, and you're happy with that,
exactly.
Hats up, you know, happy days. Yeah. You're a koi keeper. You're a successful koi keeper.
You find what works for you. I'd say this: it's not just a koi thing; it's a life thing. You know, just shut all the external stuff out. If it makes you happy, do it and do more of it. Yeah, that's it. Doesn't matter what level it's on. koi keeping can be enjoyed even more. We're actually seeing the regression to obviously koi being raised and done more in fish tanks now as well. You know, in Japan, they're actually been trying to make it a thing. We're looking at sort of side view fish, keeping fish in aquariums.
Yeah.
It's happening more and more with koi out there. Seeing it, you know, as we're walking into offices, there's more and more fish tanks with just a nice little set of fish in it or koi in it. So, yeah, you can enjoy koi on any sort of level and really keep it simple. You do not need there's stuff out there that can make it easy, but you don't need the thousands of pound filtration units and all that to actually get into the hobby and get started and enjoy it.
Yeah. I think in terms of investing in filtration, there is probably an argument to do it once and do it right. I mean, obviously, quite a lot of business in the trade is made up of people that are, you know, come unstuck halfway through their journey, their koi journey. But yeah, it doesn't need to be 4, 5, 6. I mean,
no,
even more. I mean, some of these filter systems, don't get me wrong, like you said, when they're working, they'll make your life easier.
Yeah.
And obviously, with the introduction of windows, that mechanical filtration side is ever more important to people because, I mean, I went to see a customer's pond. Go on.
Yeah, you've just literally at the point though, because then that's moving to an obsession and a focus on the water clarity more than anything.
Yeah.
That shit will drive you crazy.
Yeah.
It will. I'm completely unhinged from that. I don't give a monkeys about water clarity up here. You know, some ponds, sometimes I'm running green as well because that's what I want to do. But that is the last thing on my mind. I'm fortunate enough because obviously, to be fair, I've not got a retail shop. I remember in my dad's shop when I worked there, we used to get judged by water. If you had a bit of a cloudy pond, people thought your fish were ill. Just bizarre stuff like that. But when it comes to it in reality, the water clarity is actually the very, very last thing on my list. Yeah. It does take a lot of headache away, to be honest with you. In fact, sometimes I like running the water a bit murkier because it helps me control UV, a little bit of UV penetration, which is better for the skin. Yeah.
When I was allowed to have a pond many years ago, I ran it green. It's really odd way of doing it for some people, but obviously with this introduction of the windows, I went to see a customer, sold him, you know, pond setup, etc. There's a lot of fines in my pond. And I went there, and I'm not joking, mate. You look down on the pond.
Crystal.
To the point of going, I'm not even sure if that's good for fish.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Look through it, and you see these bit.
Yeah.
Mate.
Yeah.
That's
going to drive you mad.
That's going to drive you insane if that's your hang up.
Yeah. But so it's about priorities, but in essence for me it's about the fish. Yeah. That's always my first and foremost, that's my priority. And it's what do I do to get the body right, the skin right, and growing properly. Everything else after that, I don't really care about. It's the one focus, and it is what it is in order to achieve that. Yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot of people at the moment. I spoke to a guy who works for a well-known water company, and you know, they are basically with the whole COVID scenario, they are introducing a little bit more shit into the water. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, to reduce coming in. Basically, people will tell me whether this is right or wrong, but levels of sterilisation have been upped because they can't end. They don't at the time. They didn't want to enter people's homes all the time. Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Yeah, it does. But obviously, where I was inundated for that first year. Fish are flicking. Fish look stressed. Yeah. Going red. Blah blah blah. And this was like constant, the same. Yeah, issue. All right, let's stop it. Let's go back to basics. And basically everyone trickling. And they're feeding that pond. I feel like that's a whole other video you've just touched upon. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. So, but we'll make a note of that one.
yeah, we'll go into depth a bit more on that one. But yeah, you can understand people want an answer. They want to throw something in.
Fish flicking is like the particles bit and all the rest of it. That will drive you potty. I mean, you have got to, fish will naturally flick the same as we would scratch.
Yeah.
Every now and again, that is when it's bum, bum, bum repeatedly, constantly. Yeah, it's and you can't physically sort of place a reason on it. I've been through that one myself. That does drive you to distraction. But yeah, the water topic, that's definitely one we need to get into depth with.
Maybe we'll get a guest on for that one.
Or someone who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, that's the one, mate. Yeah, someone with a bit of fish experience.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of like running costs as well, that was another thing that keeps getting banded around. It ties in perfectly with are things becoming a bit overcomplicated?
Yeah, really. I mean, running costs. It depends how you're doing it, isn't it? You can literally. I think that's, to me, a really, really brilliant. It doesn't even really need me to answer that. It is what you make it. You know, you can run a pond really cost effectively, really on a budget, quite easily. That's going to make negligible amounts of difference. Most pumps on market these days are really energy efficient, aren't they? Gone are the days back when I started where people would come in with a pump and it'd be a 2-man lift to get it up, and it's basically powered by 3-phase electric. They were all over the place, you know, quarter horsepowers and all that business. Jesus Christ, that's long gone. You know, most pumps are energy efficient. Air pumps are energy efficient. UVs have never been massive energy consumers anyway. Off the top of my head, that's the 3 main elements of a basic koi pond. Yeah. Pump, UV and an air pump. Happy days. I mean, what there on a smallish pond, you might not even chew up
100 watts.
A couple of 100 watts tops, something like that.
Yeah, 150.
You're not going to notice a difference. Yeah, when you start moving through the gears, you know, then if you're running multiple pumps, you know, pumps that you need bigger uplift for running big showers, even there, they're more energy efficient. I suppose the biggest cost is when you throw heating into the mix. Yeah. You know, that's one big part for me of enhancing the hobby is having heating, because it just completely changes the dynamic, but it is the part that probably adds the most amount of cost. But yeah, other than that, I don't think, I mean, obviously energy prices are rising full stop, so it's not just koi, it's impacting just life everywhere in general, but the actual general upkeep and running cost of a pond, if you get the right equipment, is negligible, I think.
I mean, some of the figures that are being banded around, there's a guy, 2,500 gallons, he reckons he's getting a £90 bill a month.
Yeah.
For his pump. And, you know, you're just kind of going, yeah, that is a little bit for one small pond.
Yeah, I'd have to ask what he's running there, really.
Multiple bits and pieces that you could maybe argue that he didn't need it. Yeah. But yeah, well, I think we're going to cover that on one of the Koi Talk magazines as well. Yeah. One of the articles. So yeah, watch out for that one. Final bit that we're going to move on to, Rick, is everyone, when they're selecting koi, they've kind of always got in their head, want to get it big. Yeah. Obviously, there's probably few and far between, hobbyist-wise, that ever actually find that potential in the fish. Yeah. So say, you know, amount of times, that could do 75, 85. You hear it all the time.
Quite commonly, yeah. Yeah. Completely.
Are people focusing on that too much?
Yeah, I think
over other elements.
Sort of ties in to the whole conversation, really, doesn't it? Well done there, Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, I've done that intentionally.
Doesn't sound like us, does it? To be honest, yeah, I think it depends. If that's what you want to do and achieve, then it should be your focus. But it's not the be all and end all. I think every fish, because there's become a point where every fish is looking at it. If it's, you know, chibi nisai, it's another thing, you know, small nisai.
That's something else I wanted to draw upon.
That really, really probably is misunderstood and not not really appreciated for what they are, in all honesty, because people, that market, again, I don't think, the general koi keepers out there will be aware, the market for small Nisai has been booming. And it's always been a really popular size, sort of 20 to 25 centimetres in the trade. It's always sold really well and been popular. And this isn't just in the UK, this is worldwide, because the breeders have been keeping more and more fish indoors and raising them that way, or stocking mud ponds heavier to make a smaller Nisai, because people like them. When I look at the enjoyment I get from the pond full of Aoki fish we've got here that's full of a small Nisai at the minute, they're all between 20 and 30 centimetre, aren't they? Just wow. It's just a phenomenal pond of fish. Some fish naturally look better when they're kept a bit smaller, metallic fish being one of them, really. And big metallic fish, what a rare beast they are. Again, if you come across them, great, expect them to be expensive, because getting them there is not easy. But they just look so good, and I think that's where, you can lose, a bit of enjoyment from them. If everything you're looking at, I think it needs to be big, No, it doesn't. Having a pond, 1,000 gallon, and just, focusing on the quality of the fish, keeping them looking at their absolute best, and having them all about that size has bring as much enjoyment, let me tell you, than seeing a pond full of big fish that probably won't have, from a colour perspective, in most instances, won't have the impact of that pond full of smaller fish that are 20, 25 centimetre and kept looking in tip-top condition. Because again, the numbers of well-raised, really, really big koi out there is few and far between.
So I guess it needs to be, it doesn't need to be, there's no right or wrong answer for it, but
it depends, again, it's what you're
it's relative, down to the individual. But if you've realistically not got a chance of achieving 80, 85 cm, which is a big fish.
Yeah, not a lot out there capable of it.
Yeah, then maybe there should be a bit less demand on the size of the fish and more focus on other attributes.
I think it just comes to getting that, again, when you're focused on getting the most enjoyment out of it, and when you're buying, especially getting the most fish for your money. So, if you're in the market for a Deutsch shower and you come along with a checklist that you want it to have a nice pattern, nice skin, nice shape, that's going to be hard enough. Yeah. If then you've got, you want it, I ideally want to get it to about 80 cm. Well, it's not going to happen, because it generally doesn't happen anyway. Even 70s getting a bit toppy for a lot of them, and keeping that quality at that size as well. So you've got to remember, not every variety is made for that size, but just find what works for you. But don't dismiss, the fact that it's a small Nisai, it doesn't mean it's not going to grow. That's it. It's just small for the age. What somebody, and this always makes me laugh, Hoshikin, calls small Nisai 40 to 45 cm fish. That's what he calls a small Nisai. If I wind back some years, the average Nisai size was 30 to 35 cm. It's sort of what it was. Then big Nisai were 40 to 45. Then all of a sudden these jumbo Nisai come along that were 50, 55. Now we're regularly seeing some Nisai hitting 60 plus. With GoSanke stuff, it's just, that's your natural progression coming through. We've got to remember back, these 30, 35 centimetre once upon a time became 70 and 80 centimetre fish. It's just different raising techniques, obviously improved lineages. Sometimes it's just forcing them, more intensely. Whereas, they used to be grown a lot slower, it was a lot steadier, so you might be hitting 80 centimetres nowadays at the likes of Sakai at 5 years old, whereas, that might have been 8 years old with a more traditional lineage raised in a slower way. It might have possibly been a bit more. But find what works for you, honestly. I think I love it from all angles. I really do. Like that pond of Aoki fish down there gives me as much enjoyment as the pond full of Dainichi fish that have been raised bigger. It's finding what works, but just keep an open mind to it, because there's so much out there you can find enjoyment in. I've recently touched base with somebody who saw him down at a shop who had sort of blinkers on with GoSanke and living in that world, thinking it's all that exists. And he managed to see some, you know, and Ren Jogan of all things, and it just completely opened his eyes to what was actually out there, that he could be mucking around in a grow-on pond as opposed to his main collection pond. And I know for a fact it enhanced the hobby big time, because you can learn so much as well. You know, if you're just keeping focused on one thing all the time, you just don't expand your experiences, your knowledge, and you just stay where you are. So, yeah, open-minded.
Yeah, I think that's part of the journey that we're on with Koi Talk, is not to liberate people, but just to sort of like put a different slant on it. I mean, I think there was a line that you said on one of the videos that, you know, about analysing or assessing a fish, and it had a slight demerit. And you said, you know, that's the last thing that I was looking at, because I was looking at all the other positive elements. Yeah. If you can sort of tune into that mindset, you're going to be a much happier koi keeper.
Yeah. It opens up so many doors.
And I just think, for me, when I speak to a lot of hobbyists, it's difficult, because if you've been institutionalised, you know, this is the way you do it, this is how a koi is judged, this is, it needs bang, 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 bang. You just go, well, this fish hasn't got it, so it can't be any good.
No. And it just stems from lack of teaching, understanding, and available knowledge, to be fair.
Yeah.
You know, I do consider myself fortunate that I've had exposure, so much exposure in Japan more than anything, and, you know, open to that mindset from a young age, and how they just see, love and appreciate koi. You know, sometimes it literally, you have a fish in a bowl and there is no words.
Yeah, the silence says it all.
As I say, you just have to look at each other, and it's like,
you know,
job done. You know, that's bliss if you can hit that point. So, yeah. Well,
that's it for this edition, guys. I hope you found it informative and interesting. We'll be back again shortly, Ricky, I believe.
No doubt.
But yeah, thanks for tuning in. As always, if you're not subscribed, please make sure you subscribe and support us with the magazine. Stay tuned, and thanks very much, guys.
Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.